Today we're counting down our top 10 small box games that we discovered this year.
Hi, I'm Julian and this is Libby, and together we make up BoxedMeeples. Now, board game collectors, you know our problem. Board games, they're a bit big sometimes, especially when they're eclipse size and they take up all the shelves, or even the standard size box. You can only get so many on a Kallax. So eventually you start to have to buy smaller games, and that's what we've started doing more and more. And today we're talking about our 10 favourites that we've discovered this year in 2024.
We are indeed. The first game is probably the most sentimental to me on the list, and it's Elawa. We discovered this game from new friends that we've met in the board game world. Whilst we were on honeymoon in Mauritius, we of course went over to a board game shop and had a little look in there. And we were looking for something else, which I'll talk about later, probably. And they introduced us to Elawa. We asked them sort of what the favourite games are they were playing at the moment, and this one came up straight away, and so we all played it together. It's always going to remind me of honeymoon, which is obviously a wonderful time in our lives, but it's a really lovely little game where you've got this little campsite and you're trying to work out what bits and bobs that you need from around it, trying to sort of time things just right so you can get those extra bonuses, which is really interesting in this game. But essentially you're building out a little tableau and trying to get everything to work together to earn you the most amount of points for each of the cards and the different tokens that you're able to maybe stack on them or doing different things on there. But it's a really lovely, interesting game that has a nice little layering of you need to do this and stop that, and when that happens, this happens. I like that.
Now, my choice of game is actually another one we played on honeymoon, but it's very different to Elawa. I've chosen Radlands. Now, in this game, it's a two-player duel.
It doesn't seem like much of a honeymoon
No, not necessarily a honeymoon game, because it's a very, very aggressive game. Basically, it's set, I love the setting for this. It's kind of got this Mad Max, Borderlands style, cyberpunk aesthetic in all these wonderful neon colours. And all you need to do is defend your bases while destroying your opponent's bases. So you're drawing out different cards to create troops to basically defend while also attacking. And you do cycle through the cards incredibly quickly. And it's a very, very fast, frantic game. But the highlight for me of this game are the events, which slowly tick down as you lay them, because once they reach the end, you know something big and explosive typically is going to happen.
Yes.
What's great about these kind of games, obviously they travel very easily, so very convenient to play on honeymoon, but they play fast too, so many of these do. So we can get through a round, then mix it up completely, and particularly in Radlands, the different bases do affect significantly the gameplay and the strategy you need to do. But then you can play another game, and often we kind of play best of 3 games for these kind of things.
Yeah. So I did mention or hint towards another game that we were looking for whilst we were on honeymoon, and that is Knarr. So we went into the shop thinking, I hadn't been able to get it before we left. Maybe they would have it. Maybe I could buy a copy and we could play it on honeymoon. Well, they had a copy there for us to play. And so we did play it all together then, but they didn't have any retail versions left. So, I mean, we have, of course, since got it. But, I mean, I love a Viking game, and this is a great small box Viking game. I really enjoy how you're trying to work out what colours to draft into your area to be able to eventually get those cards that are going to give you extra things. They're going to give you points. They might get you up that interesting track that lets you gain points at the beginning of every turn. And it was always fun to see who manages to creep up that the furthest. And there's a bit of a race going on there whilst you're marrying up all these Vikings. But of course, the longer you leave them in your play area, every time you gain another one of that colour, you're getting more and more resources. So there's that balance between taking those cards and doing the scoring and getting things there, or being able to build this really good engine before it suddenly collapses because you've used them or spent them all to get other things. So yeah, really nice Viking game. Love that one.
Courtisans, that's a game that looks like it's one thing, but really it is actually another. In this, it's kind of like a market manipulation style game where you have the Queen's favour and you've got different families gathering around for a feast. You've got cards in hand and you have to make the decision of, are you going to increase the value, the favour of this family in matching the colour, or are you going to make them less favourable? Or you're going to keep the card and use those to score later on, or you're going to offload the card onto someone else and they get, you know, the eventual score for that family. And obviously the more people you play it with, the more fluctuating the value of each family becomes. But it gets really very interesting when you start playing the special cards, particularly the assassin. You lay him down and who you're going to assassinate on the board or in a play area. And on top of that, you've got your own objectives to do, which are kept hidden.
It's very Littlefinger.
It really is. And you don't realise this when you first lay it out. It's very simple to explain and very quick to play, but you don't realise that the kind of level of kind of suspicion that arises as you play it. Really, really, really lovely production too. The kind of gilded cards that you're laying out on a fabric tablecloth. You're feeling like you're playing with a bit of history, a bit of almost a bare tapestry on the table there. I didn't expect much from this. I heard great things about it at Aircon, but once I started playing and seeing the multi-levels that go on, is when it really starts to sing, and it's such a quick game to play and end your evening with a bit of shenanigans.
Another game that we did play at Aircon. It's not a game that we own yet, unfortunately, and it's probably the biggest of the small box games on this list, but I still think that counts as quite a small size box, and it's Beaver Creek. It's just so much fun, this one. You've got a bit of dexterity, you've got some dice rolling, and you're trying to work out whether you can build your beaver dam. Where have you got to put the logs? Where have you got to put the beavers? Are you putting them on top? How are you putting them on? Have you got a scissor finger to be able to get them on? Have you only allowed to use one hand and not the other hand? And there's so many different little nuances. There's great little sort of family game, party game, filler, fun filler. So it worked perfectly for us for that sort of convention style fun. And it's just super silly, super fun.
It's got quite a kind of table presence, quite a spectacle. Lots of people kind of go around and going, what are you doing with those beavers and those logs? So it's one we always seem to gravitate to every time we go to a convention now.
Yeah.
I've got Rosie from Cozy Boardgames on TikTok to thank for the next one because it's Boba Mahjong, which she actually introduced me to. Now, this is just a deck of cards, really, and obviously it's based on the popular Boba drink, but with elements of Mahjong in it. So you're laying cards down to try and build up sets of 3, and then you're getting to score. Keep one of these for your scoring cards and then offload the others into draw piles. Now, what card you hand out to your draw piles is where the kind of crux of the game is, because that's what your opponent's going to get access to. So if you can work out what they're trying to collect, you can kind of help or hinder them in certain ways, or you can draw blindly and just hope that you're getting good things. What's really fun about this is you only choose a proportion of the cards you keep to later score. So it's not immediately obvious what you're trying to collect, or even to you start to look at your kind of tableau of cards at the end of it and go, okay, if I keep these, I can score that way. But is that going to be better than if I try and score in this way? Because there's quite a different variety of ways you can score. And even things like the toppings card that you get to add in there suddenly change the mechanisms that you're playing with, just around perhaps the ways you can manipulate your cards. So it looks really cute and adorable.
It does. Really
fun to play. We played the best of 3 in the space of sort of 20 minutes while we're having some coffee. Yeah. So it's a really lovely game, and I don't think talked about nearly enough.
No, it's a cute one. I really like how most trick-taking games, you take that trick and then that's it. But because you're then choosing some of those cards to have to score at the end of the game, and what you pick is important, it adds that extra layer that a lot of trick-taking don't have. It's
kind of got a second layer to the game, which you then have to think in a completely different way.
Next up for me is a game that everyone's been talking about this year, and it's because it's so excellent and it is such a brain buster because you have to think backwards. And of course, it's Faraway. The art on these cards is just lovely. But you're playing a card down each round, and that seems great. And you sort of going along and score those. But when you get to the end of the round to score, you're starting backwards, going forwards, and then you're only able to score the things that are currently available to score. So each time you're flipping another card and flipping another card, then you're scoring those things forward, not anything that you'd previously laid. So you've really got to get your brain into gear with in what order you're playing things and whether you have enough symbols at the back end of the game, getting those in place in order to make all of your plans that you had early game come to fruition. And that meant, I mean, it's easier said than done, I will say, but it's a really fun puzzle to keep making work. And I mean, we were hoping to pick up the expansion from Essen. That is on our...
We will get it.
We missed it,
weren't able to get it because it's so popular. But I guarantee every time you play this, especially when you've played a lot of kind of these similar games, you're going to think you've done something majestic. You're going to look at your table and go, oh, that's going to add to that, that's going to add to that, and that's going to be a big scoring bill. Then it'll click and you'll go, oh, yeah. This all scores backwards, and I've got none of scores anything.
Nothing for that, and I'm scoring nothing for that. Oh yeah, and all those symbols are over there, so I'm still scoring nothing for that.
It's so strange because you get your mind in a certain way when you play a lot of these games. It's so hard to kind of shift out of that and forget that's not what you're meant to be doing in this.
Yeah, but and interesting that you can do so badly in a game the first kind of couple of times you play it, or like
all the time I play this.
But it's still a lot of fun, and you still have that, next time I'm going to get it right, I'm going to get it all synced up, and it's going to be glorious. And it isn't for us. But it's so much fun trying to make it be.
Because it's not unlike so many games you play. It's the scoring at the end, the backward score that makes us really, really sing.
Yeah.
Dr. Rainer Knizia was having a curious day one day when he said, I'm going to make a game that requires making ninja poses and then grabbing things as fast as you can. Ninja Master is such a strange itten game, but incredibly fun. All you're doing is basically grabbing an item from the ninja arena that you think you're going to get most points from, but you have to do it so quickly that you haven't really got time to calculate what you're going to get most points because as soon as you've done that, someone else has already swooped in there and got that blue, which is going to score us 5 points. And then you say, oh, okay, I'll get the green one, realising then that is actually a -2. What's also fun about this game is you can even start attacking your friends by grabbing the ninja sword and taking half their points, but only if you do it at the right time, because if you do it at the wrong time, that's bad for you. It's such a silly game that plays so super fast, but every time we played it, there's been fun and giggles all around the table. The itten games are a collection of madness that never...
Glorious madness.
They never fail to entertain. 3 Second Try is another one we've discovered. Absolutely love it. Love the little weird bowling game.
Yeah, Viking Seesaw.
Viking Seesaw is another one.
Yeah. The whole Fun Brick series is fun.
Yeah. It's ish.
Yeah.
You're not going to be playing this in some clever tournaments somewhere in Vegas where all people are gathering around and commentating on the tactical play. No, you're just grabbing stuff as quickly as possible and really just hoping you grab the right thing.
Yeah,
so much fun. Like Beaver Creeks at a convention, we're just gathering around and silly fun, and makes you start thinking most about what ninja pose you're going to do next.
Exactly. And I will caveat, this is on the list as you're talking about it, because I did actually play this at Essen last year.
It's new to me this year.
But it is new to you and to the rest of the family here this year, because we picked it up at Essen this year. So I have played it before, but you hadn't.
I joined our collection this year, which means...
So it does count. It still counts. Last up from me is a game that we did pick up at Essen this year as well. And that is Fall. And this is a very cute little fox on the front game, which is what drew me to it in my sort of top 10 games I was looking to sort of look at Essen, because basically it looked like it had our dog on the front.
Good reason to buy a game.
Yeah, but I did look into it afterwards, of course, and then we've gone in and played it, and it's got those kind of Cascadia kind of feel about it, where you're placing out the different types of landmarks and you're putting on the different animal tokens on top, and you're building out this ecosystem of autumnal wondrousness. The difference is in Fall, it's a 2-player only game, and neither of you know how each other are scoring. So you're trying to guess at, well, it seems like they don't really want those robins together. They seem to want them on their own. Oh, they definitely don't want more than 4 foxes together.
No, they keep
Do they only want
that.
3 foxes? They keep removing them and putting our stuff on top. So there's now a smaller group of foxes. Why are they doing that? So whilst you're trying to put out what you want, you're also wanting to sort of disguise what you want from your opponent. And your opponent's trying to work out what you're trying to do and how to manipulate that into what's going to score for them without giving away all of their scoring stuff too. And it's quite a quick game to play going through the rounds. And obviously you need to have that want to have a bit of back and forth between you and a little bit of, nope, you will not have 2 of those birds up together. Thank you. Nope, you're still not having 2 of those birds together. No, I've told you once, I've told you twice, you're not having 2 birds together. And so you can feel sometimes like, oh, I keep trying to do this thing that I need to do and I'm never able to do it because they keep dragging me down. And if you don't like that in games, then it might not be for you. But for us, we quite enjoy that competitiveness and how to come around and get another way of scoring with one of the other things and then sneak it in at the end and all that kind of stuff that comes about with that. And yeah, it was a really sweet and nice, it took up quite a small amount of table, which was nice too.
I like how it's got the kind of scale to it too. So lots of these tile placing games just keep on one flat, but this one's got a height to it as well, where the amount of things you're stacking up often plays into it as well.
Which of course allows you to cover up things that your opponent wants.
You wouldn't do that, would you? No. It'd be annoying if someone did that. You might remember I did 5 games that I enjoy playing on a train, and on that video I included Gloomhaven, which inspired a lot of comments of, wow, why are you putting Gloomhaven on there? You can't play Gloomhaven on a train. I was referring to Gloomholding, which I think was made clear in the video, but Gloomholding was a kind of fan-made project which was designed to have the Gloomhaven experience in a game that you could hold in your hand. And it's really well done. Now, Isaac Childress saw that and said, well, let's turn that into a proper game, which is where Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs came from.
A really teeny box.
It's a very small box, may well be the smallest box on this list, and also in proportion to the big box, which I think is lovely. Now, I got this at Essen. I didn't quite know what to expect, but because of work commitments, we've had to put our Frosthaven kind of campaign on hold, and I've been missing that. I've been missing the kind of, well, I've been missing gathering together and playing it all, but I also miss the actual game itself, because I really do enjoy those kind of Gloomhaven, Frosthaven games. So I was intrigued to see how Buttons and Bugs would work, it being very, very small and very, very quick to play. Each scenario is only 20 minutes. And I was so happy to see how well it has translated to this kind of micro version of it, because it has all the things you expect in Gloomhaven. So it's got the top and bottom actions, you're playing down cards, you've got your long rest and your short rest, you've got range combat and you've got close-up combat, and it's got a proper story that's written by Isaac Childress as well, which is kind of quirky and weird and a bit different as well. And yes, there's certain new approaches to the game. So you're no longer drawing cards to see, how your attacks are going to play out. That's now got a dice roll, and you can work for a table to see if it's going to be a plus or minus effect. But in essence, it still feels like the same game. You're collecting items. You've got even magical abilities that strengthen your attacks with different characters to play. And I was just overwhelmed by how great it really is. Of course, it isn't Gloomhaven. You can't play this multiplayer. You're not going to get a sweeping epic experience. You don't get any of the stuff in between. So there's no road missions or building up bases or anything like that. But there is a branching story, which I was, again, surprised by. So if you want that kind of Gloomhaven experience while you're on a train, I've done it and it worked perfectly. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs was such a lovely surprise. I had our expectations and it certainly met them.
So that is our top 10 small box games that we have discovered this year. And so we'd love to hear from you as to whether you have discovered these games, what you thought of them, or other small box games that you've discovered that perhaps we might like. We'd love if you would let us know about them in the comments.
Yeah, and of course, if you're interested in getting any of these games, or bigger games perhaps, a good place to go is your friendly local game store. And for us, in the southeast of England, we always go to Chaos Cards. And what's great about Chaos Cards is they have a fantastic website with some amazing bargains coming up you want to keep an eye on. And if you are buying online, there is a discount code in the description which will save you some money at the checkout.
There is indeed, but for now we hope that you are subscribed, and if not, please do so. It really helps us out. And we will see you next time with another board game video.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.